So this is the Building and Planning Committee and a special meeting of the Board of Directors of the Kern Valley Healthcare District. It is Tuesday, August 30th at 1 o'clock, and we're called to order. Board members, please take a quick look at the agenda. Are there any changes to any agenda items?
I didn't see any. I read through it earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't see any.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion as such.
I'll second.
Thank you, John. Catherine, your vote?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Fred?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So our agenda is approved. We're to public comment. This portion of the meeting is reserved for members of the public to address this committee, this board, on matters under our jurisdiction that are not on today's agenda. Do we have any members of the public wishing to be heard? Seeing none, then we will move to item D, which is approval of minutes from July 26th.
I'll make a motion, we approve them.
Thank you, Catherine. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Fred. Any discussion? Okay, then Catherine, your vote?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Fred?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
They don't scan well.
So we are to the project update item and the master plan. Bob, do you want to take it from here?
Yes, so we do finally have an update from HCI on the review of the plans.
Oh, good.
They are now saying that their comments should be out by September 15th. So that's good news that at least they've started looking at it. And also, as I think we'll throw in here under master plan, is that there is a funding stream from FEMA available through Cal OES that we're working on and applying for. It is called the BRIC funding. BRIC stands for Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities. And Emily and I have been on some, she's been on more than me, but we've been on some seminars with Cal OES, and we are technically eligible. Again, we have to go through Kern County because there's requirements that they can only come in through the sub-applicant must have an approved emergency plan from FEMA, and Kern County updated theirs last year. And so we would do the same as we did the last time. We would meet with the Board of Supervisors, get their approval, sign a memorandum of understanding, that sort of thing. The planning department has to have had a BSEG study done, and they have. I've met with the building department and they have a BSEG's rating. And so it looks like most of the ducks are in a row. Our first notice of intent that we are applying for the funds can be done September 1st through September 16th. So we will be on, we'll be on the website probably on the 1st, this Thursday, filling out the notice of intent. And then if we're approved by Cal OES, then after the 16th, we have to submit basically a notice of intent with FEMA. And then once that FEMA gets those, then they have a time period on which they can say, yes, we can move ahead. And if we have to move ahead, we have to do the full-blown study. And it's an onerous process, but it's worth it. It looks like we can request up to 50 million, and based upon what I'm going to talk about to you later, we'll probably go for the whole 50 million if it fits in the BCA, which is a document that you have to put together in FEMA's website that gives you a rating, and the rating has to be better than 1/1. It's a long process. I won't get into at this point.
This is a process similar to the FEMA funding we were trying to get a couple of years ago. That obviously we weren't funded for that project and so forth, but
our application was approved.
Yes.
It's just that they dispersed all of the funds before they got to us.
Right. So that's why we want to get on this much earlier in the process to make sure that we hopefully get
Number
ourselves in front of
77,
them.
please dial.
In the 2022 BRIC program, there's 2.3 billion nationwide available. And actually, in the last 2 years, almost 50% of those dollars, they were lesser amounts. This is the biggest year so far. Almost 50% of those awards went to California. And they specifically talked about this being available for hospitals for upgrades. So anyway, so we're working on that.
So Bob, this is Dave. Just to manage expectations, my own personal experience with FEMA has been miserable in terms of starting out with a lot of optimism and then always being disappointed. So I just hope that we go into this just with the right kind of expectations.
Having been through this already, we understand that. completely.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I do not have high hopes at all. But if you don't ask and apply, you can't get.
Right.
And so, you know, for instance, the last time we did it, it was approved up through the point where we were sitting down with the county and we had a number, we had everything. And the guy at the county I was working with said, usually when they make it this far, you get the funding. So we had our hopes all up and we didn't get it. So I'm not expecting that we get it, but we're going to try.
Yeah, the exact same thing happened to us about 5 years ago at C&D. So, yeah.
Yes, and so the way this program works is we have to fund 25% and they fund 75%. And if it's, if it's approved project, as you spend the money and submit your receipts of the money spent, then they give you the money back. And it also is, if it's all approved, it goes ahead. I lost my train of thought there. But anyway, so it's a 25-75.
Let's assume we do the whole 50, that number works. We could certainly swing the 12.5 million out of our own money. It wouldn't be a problem.
If, again, I give it a 1 or 2% chance, but if we got it, it kind of gets us home free. Oh, I know what I was going to say. The monies have to be spent within 3 years unless you have good written reasons for it to go a little bit longer, which would then be approved for it to extend longer than 3 years. All right, so that's master plan, unless there's any questions. But of course, the spinoffs are items 2, 3, et cetera. On the SPC 4D material testing, we received a letter from HCI that says they've reviewed our material testing condition assessment program, revision 1 dated August 15 of 2022. And as partial satisfaction of the SPC 4D, this letter constitutes written approval of the MT cap as proposed. So our plan as proposed has been accepted. And so now I'm just waiting for the approved drawings, and at which point we'll get those out to bid for doing the testing. And okay, new administration building or whatever we want to call it, new office building. Okay, so spoke with the architect. All the corrections have been made to the drawings, and the plans are resubmitted to the county for plan review. That being said, you'll notice in my minutes this issue about the floodplain. That if the value of the work exceeds 50% of the dollar value of purchasing the property, then we have to upgrade the building to flood, and that would be exorbitantly expensive. So what the architect did is he broke the project down into some phases, et cetera. Do you have that deal? I scanned it and sent it to Heidi. The colors didn't come through real well, but you can kind of see them there. So what they did, I wrote at the bottom what's in each of the suites. The suites start with a counting of suite A, B, C, D, and E. So what the architect has broken it down into is that we have the base bid, which is Suite E, the human resources. So when we put this out to bid, it'll be a base bid with then an alternate 1 and an alternate 2. The alternate 1 and alternate 2 are the 2 suites where we're building the most walls, which is medical records and medical records / offices. So that's the majority of the work. So how this would bid out is we would send it out to bid to contractors, and they would give us 3 prices. The base bid, which is human resources, Suite C, and they would give us an additional cost for the other 2 suites, not giving us a cost for accounting in Suite A or education in Suite D. And so depending on the dollar amount, we can choose to do the base bid and the base bid plus alternate 1, or the base bid plus alternate 1 and 2, as long as we do not exceed a contract price of 50% of the value of the building. That will keep us out of floodplain, we believe. And then phases 2 and 3 would be done at a later date, and or, since like in accounting, all we're going to do is run some data and a little bit of power. We might be able to just put some carpet down. We might, just do that with our in-house staff, because it would probably not exceed the dollar amount that pushes us into putting it out to bid.
Right.
So this is what we've proposed to do with the county. We're going to see if they accept it in this plan review. Any questions?
Makes sense, Bob. Good approach.
Yeah, it's just a real challenge, because they just are not going to let this study done by nobody a long time ago. They're not going to let it go. So we have to work around it. Okay. All right. So the next one is the tough one.
Hey, Heidi, can we get back to the normal screen?
I am so sorry.
Thank you.
So emergency generator. All right. So as you know, we had this out to bid. I think in my comments, I said job walk was completed, bids due August 25th. Okay. So we got 1 bid. Now, that being said, I want to throw some things out of there. We've talked over the years that as we get closer and closer to 2030, that competent contractors are going to get very busy. And then, of course, you have just increasing costs of materials. So obviously, at least 2 firms that showed a lot of interest in bidding did not bid. And I called them after the bids were due and asked why. And they simply said they're really busy right now, and they just didn't feel that they could handle the additional work. So we ended up with 1 bid. The company is relatively competent. It's JTS Construction. They did the expansion and renovation of the clinic for Greg.
Right.
And there was some challenges with it, but nothing that wasn't insurmountable that we got around and got through. So other issues is I've been doing a lot of research in the last day and a half. Copper, which a lot of this project is copper wire. Copper in all the mines in the world producing copper, the majority of that copper is being bought by China. So it's driving the cost of copper up phenomenally. And so anyway, so after the bids were done and JTS had given me their prices, the electrical subcontractor was out of Palmdale. I knew that a firm in Bakersfield had bid the project, and I know them quite well, so I called them and picked their brain, because I don't think I was breaking any rules, because they're not the listed subcontractor. They were disappointed because they were hoping that they could do the job for us, but he gave me some information on the costs of things like the copper wire. Anyway, and the various switchgear has gone up dramatically, but copper has gone up phenomenally. I don't know if you bought any plywood lately, but it's 3 and 4 times the cost that it was 2 years ago. I did speak with the, Tim and I have looked at all sorts of options. I spoke with the electrical engineer, and we could switch to aluminum wire, which is about 50% lower than copper. It has its drawbacks. It has a higher maintenance issue in that annually you've got to go through and torque down all of because of shrinkage and expansion on aluminum, you've got to retorque all of your connections annually and various things. So it's not ideal, but there could be some savings there because aluminum wire is about 50% the cost of copper. And I will tell you this, that the contractor that was not the one listed with JTS said that they were floored when they got the price from their wire supplier for this project. The wire alone without markup at all was $1 million.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was absolutely floored because I had a conversation with the guy at Leland Saylor who is bidding the master project, and we talked real briefly and quickly, but we covered a lot of ground because he was going through an airport with his kids coming back from vacation, but he still answered all my questions. He said, because the general contractor probably knew that they were the only bidder, and I don't know how they find this out. I sent an email to JTS because I said I wanted to know why one of their electrical subcontractors was phenomenally cheaper than their other subcontractors. They're probably wondering how I know. But when you work in the industry, you know people, and people are willing to talk about stuff. But anyway, so he said usually they find out they're the only bidder and their price goes up 20%. He says almost invariably. So there's some of the cost right there. I can tell you that JTS's portion of the project for supervision, overhead, profit, et cetera, which is everything that the general contractor has. We don't have a breakdown on that, but that piece of it is $800,000, almost to the dollar. Anyway, so I also had a conversation with our architects because we discussed the possibility, because see, obviously we drew a generator project that is ideal for this hospital. We want to be able to cook in our kitchen when we have no electricity. We want to be able to continue to function. So we wanted the majority of the facility to be on emergency power. So we chose 1,000 kW generator, and we chose to wire the power onto the newer buildings, which there's costs involved with that. Now, I can tell you that the cost that I got for 1,000 kW generator in 2016 and 2022 is only about $45,000 more. So the cost of the generator has not gone up a whole lot, only its lead time in getting it. But the cost of all the other construction products have gone up phenomenally. Anyway, so I talked to the architect, and he says, we have had, and of course, he's been doing this for 30 years. He says there's been many hospitals that got to this point and went, that's too much money. Let's go back to the drawing board and let's redraw the plans for a lesser scope and rebid it. And so the cost that we paid for drawing these plans was $130,650. So if we were to redraw the plans, it wouldn't be that much, but it would be a portion of that to resubmit to HCI, go through the 6 months or so of plan review, and then have a project that would be of a lesser scope. Because what we could do is we could say, okay, we're not going to do dietary, we're not going to do skilled nursing, and we are simply going to put in a generator size just to handle acute care. Understand that we're buying in this project 5 transfer switches. We're replacing one that's bad in the existing electric vault, and we have 4 others. We would still have to buy 3 transfer switches because code now requires 1 for life safety, 1 for critical patient, and 1 for mechanical systems, in which our case we'd have 2 for mechanical systems. And so we still have to do 4 transfer switches. We still got to do an enclosure and a pad outside to put them on. we could downsize the generator and probably save $100,000. But what the architect told me that has happened most of the times that hospitals have done this, they get through the whole process for a lesser scope. They put it out to bid and the price comes in almost the same as the original project that was much bigger and or more money. And it has to do with construction escalation costs during the time frame that you are now waiting to rebid this. So he said they have rarely ever seen the price go down, even though the scope may have got reduced by, say, 30%. So, and I had two separate phone calls, one with Michael Ryan and one with Eric, our other architect who's directly over our project, and they both gave me the same answer separately, having not talked to each other, because I talked to them just a few minutes apart. So, you know, there's that option. I'm just throwing out all the options before I give you the really bad news. Anyway, I like I said, I was absolutely floored because, you know, Leyland Saylor wanted to make sure that I had taken my old numbers and put 6% per year for, you know, for the increased cost. And I assured him I had, and I went back and I checked my numbers, and the budget we have today, taking my budget from 2016 and 6% per year, is almost spot on the budget that we have currently, which was 1.35 million, if I remember right. Anyway, so the other option I discussed with the electrical engineer, we could hold off on bidding this project and have it bid as part of the master project, making it part of a bigger project, and the cost might be less. But now we're talking a couple years down the road, and with the way inflation's going, I'm not sure that that's a great recommendation, but it is always an option. So anyway, that's all my points. So the bad news is that what I expected to not come in over $1 million, because we already bought the generator for $545,000, you know, saying I'm thinking it's going to be a little high. So I said, well, it could come in at $1.5 million. The price to construct it came in at $3,097,500.
Holy cow.
That's why I say I was absolutely floored. And so was the architect, so were the engineers, so was everybody that I've talked to. And no matter where I plug in extra dollars for various things, it doesn't come up to this amount. But the architect and I agreed that probably JTS, knowing that they were the only bidder, have probably tacked on about 200,000. And then if we did want to say switch to aluminum wire, we'd have to negotiate with JTS. I put in a call to JTS, and the guy and I played phone tag, and I tried just before the meeting, but he was still at lunch. I wanted to know, there's one last thing I wanted to tell you. The electrical contractor in Bakersfield said that their number was 2.8 million. And the electrical subcontractor in Palmdale is 1.8 million. And that difference scares me alone, because Jared Electric tells me they have $1 million at their cost in wire. So I don't know whether this electrical contractor out of Palmdale may have already figured switching to aluminum and some things, but I was going to try and find out from JTS, but was unable to do so before the meeting, because I've only had like a little over 24 hours to try and pull all this together to give you a reasonable supposition of why we are where we at. So there's the tough one. Now, I don't believe, Scott's not on this call, but I don't believe we can actually move forward with the motion on this anyway today, because it's not on the agenda. It is only a subpart of the discussion of the master project and emergency generation, but we did not send you out the quote, it's like 10 pages and that sort of thing. So I think what we need to do is we can discuss it today. We can mull it over. And if it's decided that it should go on the agenda for a vote, we could do that at the next board meeting.
Well, absolutely, it needs to go on the agenda for a vote for the next board meeting. Whether we approve it or not, that'll be up to the board at that time, but we want the option for sure. But one of the ideas that you threw out, Bob, was to put this off and bid it as part of the remodel project. And so in doing that, that'll cost us more per month for the generator that we're leasing, correct?
Absolutely. $2,400 a month, if I remember right.
Okay, I thought it was 5, but 24 is even better.
But you have to understand, I am terrible with remembering numbers.
Okay,
I'd have to go back and look in my records, and you might be right. It might be 5.
I think it's 24.
Yeah, but it's pricey, and it's every month, and that adds in. And then we know that it's not likely in the next 2 years that inflation is going to back down to where it was 2 years ago.
no, but it sounds like the contractor's padding his bid, and if we put this off and include it with the overall construction project, we might get a more reasonable quote.
That comment came from our electrical engineer, and I thought it was a very valid comment. Again, I'm trying to give you all the scenarios to mull over to make a decision down the road.
Yeah. So what are the drawbacks in waiting and bidding the emergency generator with the overall construction project? What are the downsides in waiting other than the inflation and the unknown costs?
The not a whole lot that I can think of. I mean, we are relying on a 50-some-year-old transfer switch. But that being said, my electrician and I took part of the transfer switch apart, and I was amazed at the condition of the contacts. The one that's the much newer one that's in the electric vault, the contacts are badly pitted and it has other issues. And it could fail sooner than this 50-year-old one. And we actually figured out a way that we can actually kill power to half of the transfer switch at a time. And we can go in there and we can burnish the contacts and get them in like new condition, because they just made them better 50 years ago than they make them today. And so we actually have come up with a method that we can safely burnish the contacts on that transfer switch and hopefully have it live for 3 or 4 more years. Obviously no guarantees, but it's just an old workhorse, and it may very well survive. It's survived over 50 years of weekly transfers plus every power outage. So that's the only downside I can think of, other than inflation and the other things. We would also have to request with HCI for the permit to remain open because if you don't do anything, I believe it's within 12 months they'll close it. So we'd have to get permission from OSHPD to extend it to be bid along with the other project. That's the only other thing that I can think of that would be a hoop we would need to jump through.
It's like you stated, you had a price variance of $1 million just between Bakersfield and Palmdale.
Yeah. Is there a point at which the contractors might be available to rebid this at a later time? And they may be busy right now.
Yes, well, again, the 2 that were going to bid and then ended up backing out was SC Anderson and some blank. The other one starts with a C. Do a lot of schools, and that's one blank. Anyway, 2 of the largest contractors in Bakersfield. I could feel them out. Because I did comment to one of them. I says, I have a much larger project coming up here before too long. Are you going to be interested in bidding on that? And he got a little miffed, but it's like, I guess, is this project too small? Yeah, a lot of thoughts go through your head when you're wondering why do they not want to do a $3 million project or a $2.5 million project? That's a substantial project. That is not peanuts. But again, if we have one that's 30, 40, 50 million, and who knows at this point, we'll know a whole lot more after September 16th when we have a price from Leyland Sailor. But yeah, obviously that's a bigger project that they might be more interested in bidding. But I don't have a crystal ball as to, their workloads. I do know that summer times are often busy because these people do a lot of schools, and summertime is the busy time to get all the work done in schools. I've gotten that comment from a lot of contractors. So that's all I can think of, Ross.
Okay. So can we get the permit issued by HCI and then not move forward with the construction until we're ready and still keep the permit open?
I will have to check with them on how long we can keep it open, and it might have to be a letter of request to keep it open longer. They don't like them to go a long period of time, but we're already under the new code and under the same code that the master project's being reviewed on. So it's probable that they would approve it. My recollection is that that you have 1 year to start work from issuance of permit.
Okay. All right.
But with Oshpod and the delays and the time it takes to do everything, they should be more accommodating, you would think.
I don't think that they would fight us on it. We could probably put together a nice letter explaining that due to the situation and the bidding processes in here, we feel that this price is extremely high, and we would like to move this and roll it in with a bigger project, and are requesting for, that 1 year to be extended to 2 years, let's say. We'd have to do that and see what they say.
I understand your point is well taken with regards to, like I said, we went through a code upgrade from 2016 to 2019 building
Right.
codes.
And this
so
was
forth,
drawn,
leaving it
and this
open.
was drawn under the 19 code.
Correct.
Yes.
So the point was, if this was built under the 2016, they're not going to leave it open because they'd rather you do it at the current level. So we may be okay because this was built at the latest code. So
Well, are we gonna have the money anyway?
Well, currently we have the money in the bank to do this, but
Oh.
it just takes money out of the master project.
Are we to the point where cost estimate?
That's coming September 16th.
Okay, yeah, well, here you can have this one,
Okay.
if you want. Well, where we are at on the master project is September 16th. We're supposed to have pricing from Leyland Sailor.
Okay, September 16th.
Yes, and so
This year,
this year.
cool.
This year. I actually, when I called him, I asked him if he had any inkling of where the project would come in that he would be willing to share with me. And his comment was, that they compartmentalize the bidding process. So he's only working on structural. Someone else is working on electrical. Someone else is working on mechanical. Someone else is, doing. So what they're going to do is shortly before the 16th, they're all going to get together and they're going to put their prices together. So he says, unfortunately, he says, right now, he says, I have no idea. He says, if I did, I'd be glad to share it with you. But he says, we have a lot of facilities that ask this same question. But he says, because of our processes, he says, I have no idea what the total cost is looking like.
But we will know pretty close.
Yes, on the
On the
16th.
16th.
Yes.
Where are we at on here? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Emergency generator.
Emergency generator, number 4.
Oh, I didn't miss much. I think I'm on, it looks like I'm there, but my system,
Well, we saw you get up and walk away. We never
I
saw you
can't,
come
no
back.
sound, zero sound. And I tried on my phone, I couldn't get my phone to
Can you hear us?
come in here. No.
You couldn't hear us?
No.
Oh, that's
Okay.
really straight.
So that's why you're not here.
I was gonna say, that's a neat trick that you can do there, Gene.
No, it happened to
I
me
just
the
thought he
other
was working with a
day.
clone.
Microphone. You, at least you've got a camera.
God forbid.
Camera wasn't even working.
Well, he's the first person I've known that can be in 2 places at one time.
That's scary.
Yep.
Okay, any other comments, Catherine or John, Fred, on the emergency generator bid?
Yeah, no, I just appreciate you letting us know about all this, Bob. I mean, it's a lot to digest, and we're going to have to make a decision here pretty soon. But yeah, it's a lot to digest for sure. Thank you.
Well, and what I can do is I've taken those notes that I make for you in the thing, and I've added all of those issues I just discussed in red. I can give this to Heidi and she can send it out to you, so you'll have those to go back over and look at.
Yeah.
Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Perfect. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, I agree. A lot to digest and you just, will prices continue to go up or they're gonna go down? Things gonna change? We're just in a bad spot right now with not knowing one way or another.
Exactly.
So,
Oh, I know. I get so frustrated. I went and bought one sheet of plywood for the hospital, which, 2 years ago would have been $28. And it's down to $75. It was up to 120
Wow.
over 4 times.
How long can you use it for $75?
Well, we've already used it for the first project, which was putting the new air conditioner on CT scan on Monday. So it was to support our lift. And so now we're going to cut it up and make cabinets out of it.
But you can use it again. If it goes up, it'll be cheaper.
That's true. Yes. Anyway, no, it's very frustrating. I mean, I don't know if any of you bought brass and copper fittings at the hardware store recently, but they've tripled.
Copper's down, but you would think,
It's
The finished
everything's
product.
starting to taper off. The only question is it going to continue to taper over, say, the next year or
Will
so?
I get down to where it used to be?
Yeah, I don't think it'll ever get
I don't
where it
think
used
it'll
to
ever
be.
be there.
All right, okay, so that's all I have, unless anybody else has anything else on item 4.
We look forward to it on our next agenda, though. Thanks, Bob.
All right.
Hey,
Yeah.
I just think we need to confirm what our monthly rate is on the rental.
Yeah.
I'll verify that.
We'll
Thank
shoot that out to everybody in an email.
Yeah.
could we borrow one from Edison temporary? I mean, we're a hospital. No, I'm serious. I'm not,
Doubtful.
because they've had, with the outages, they've had access to so many.
Yes, and they even brought one here after the Erskine fire, but it was for a rather short time period,
Yeah.
not a period of maybe a couple of years. I'm not saying we couldn't ask, but I would be surprised if they would.
Well, they're wanting to get along with the community. It wouldn't
Yeah,
hurt to
But I
have.
also have to go all the way back through the whole HCI approval process to mount a different one.
Okay,
Not that I can't do it. I have had a lot of practice running things through HCI. Okay, so next item. Emergency generator number 1 failure. I only commented, I think, in there that, in fact, I think I took it off of my notes because that project, no, I just said, we're working with the architect, engineers, and inspector to close the project with HCI. That's where we are literally at on that. And I don't have anything other than that. It's a paper process. So the train boiler chiller. All right, so I added some comments to my comment. The contractor came out to rewire that wonderful refrigerant alarm system. But meanwhile, we were having problems with the central plant. The chillers kept going down in the middle of the night. The secondary chiller wasn't transferring and coming on. And I'd come in the morning to the buildings being hot, or I'd come in at 4 o'clock in the morning and reset and get them going. And we were just having all sorts of problems for about the last 6 weeks. Anyway, so when he got here, I asked him to work on that issue first before he worked on the refrigerant alarm, because he was the guy that can program the computer side. Well, it turned out that, all those electric storms we had a number of weeks back.
Yeah.
We got some couple of serious spikes. And I actually, in SC Southern Cal Edison, when they turned my power back on one time, they actually reversed the polarity. And the reason I know that is my chiller is smart. And the chiller right in the alarm says reverse polarity, which if they'd have not caught that almost the instant after they did it, they could have fried every motor and everything that's 3-phase in this entire hospital. And we'd have been down and out of business, and they would have had to replace everything. But
Oh my God.
Yeah, they literally did a phase rotation, which you cannot do. But also in one of those lightning spikes, it fried the computer of my building management system. So he only figured it out when he came here trying to adjust all the parameters and get them to start and stop appropriately, and it wasn't working. So I have a new computer has been brought down from Rockland, and he will be here tomorrow installing the new computer and programming it. Then if that all goes well, he's going to finish the wiring on the refrigerant alarm, and we'll be back in business. And I won't be having to come here to the hospital in the middle of the night to restart the chillers.
What's the cost of what you're having to do from the spike?
So far, I don't know.
Okay, what do you think it might?
They haven't given me a price on the computer. Now that when I say computer, it's a box this big.
You think 10,000?
Oh, no, I'm thinking maybe $1,000.
Okay, because it could possibly be covered either Edison or insurance.
Yes.
One or the other.
We've done that before with PG&E down in Bakersfield.
But
That
that's-
is, you know, your situation ruined our equipment and they reimburse you.
Yeah.
I don't know yet because they first thought it was going to be under warranty, but then they said it's not under warranty, and they said, well, we need to work out all the details. I said, no, I says, get it here. I don't care who's paying for it. Get it here. I have to have this working.
It's a small amount. I thought you were talking about.
No, I could be wrong at $1,000, but I don't see it being more than 3,000. But even then, we may still hit up Edison and say, you know, your spikes wipe this out. Anyway, so that's where we're at on the train boiler chiller project. Once we have the refrigerant alarm system working properly, I have the inspector of record come up. He's going to do a video of the shutdowns, and we'll send the video to the fire marshal. And he says he will not have to come back, and he will accept that and close the project. Long story for a short word.
Mhm.
Okay. Next item. Dietary water heater number 2. That's moving ahead slowly. And all I'm saying is that, you know, I lost one of my project guys. And so we've had to kind of spread my one project guy a little thin. He's trying to work on it 1 to 2 days a week while he's handling other issues like apartment D, ceiling fell in, and, you know, just odds and ends of stuff that we are handling on projects. So that's work is continuing on the dietary water heater. And then the next item, I believe, is pharmacy HVAC. There was one last minor change order that went to HCI. It was for restraining the electrical conduit across the roof with a series of 2x10 sleepers screwed into the structure, and all that work is done. The inspector of record is coming up on Thursday
Number 77.
to take a look at the work, and if that's approved,
Number
then we will be working on closing that project with HCI. And the last but not least is the pharmacy, outpatient pharmacy curbside pickup. Okay, I think I put in my notes, I met with the manager, we designed the signs. The signage is going to be picked up tomorrow in Bakersfield, and we will get it installed on the space, and she will implement the pickup program.
Could we get that girl to come by sometime at a meeting and talk about that curbside pickup?
Yeah.
Okay, you gotta drive up there, back up, drive around. Driver's side is on the other side of the car from the pharmacy, okay?
Let you back in.
Well, yeah, okay. You know, you could drive from the alley, you could drive on to there and then go right on out. And there could actually be a little line. What could be, if we had a few people wanting medication at the same time, it could create an issue the way it is. It'd be very simple. And the driver's side would be on the side of, which is a safety factor for the person bringing it out. There would be nothing safer, easier to control, better way to do it. Could we look at that? I mean, I'm not saying stop what you're doing.
Well, no, we're going to go ahead and implement, and then if we want to make changes to improve it, we
Could you
can.
look at maybe consider driving from the alley
Drive-through.
down and then drive around? Well,
Yeah.
it would be like a drive-through. It'd be better than it is backing
Understand.
up and everything.
I'm open to whatever is looked at and decided upon.
She's gonna be, I think, at finance tomorrow, because she's coming to talk about one of the contracts.
Okay,
and so
now,
forth for the 340B.
Okay.
So
now,
we can chat with her then if you like.
ideas about stuff like that.
Yeah.
According to what I have read, I can't go talking to people like Bob and the pharmacy lady or anybody. As a board member. Now, Ross can, Ross did, and I'm not saying anything wrong with that, because Ross got good ideas and he is a lot pleasanter to talk to now sometimes, but meanwhile, what's the status of me saying, how's it going? Is there anything we can do?
There's no problem with it,
There's no problem with that. Okay.
not from that perspective.
Well, and if you talk with Tim about it, I mean, I'm sure that Tim will be calling
Yeah.
you 10 minutes
I'm not-
later. and saying,
Like I
"Let's
said,
talk about
we
this."
took a look at this, 'cause, obviously we wanted to get this thing started. And the idea was to pull in, they're gonna bring the drugs out to the car.
Right.
You don't have to get out of your car and then go.
Right.
And so there's a second phase to what she wants to do, which is a home delivery program. And so that we're waiting on for the new computer system, because there's some stuff that the new system has that this one that we have now does not, that will allow us to implement that system. So her plan is to hopefully, at the point in time, then that should be, and hopefully by the end of the year, to have then a home delivery system where we could drive it. And obviously Mark announced in his report the other day that we are getting approved, we've got approved for funding for a new van. This will be our third vehicle, transport vehicle. So the plan is to do it at that point in time. And so she wants to make a real big effort, market that, the availability of that to the community, between that and the curbside pickup for those who live right here and so forth. She thinks that, because nobody else is doing all that stuff.
Every extra one that we sell is profit, because we're at a break even. Our profit is not there. We could make money.
She'll talk about profits tomorrow.
We just bring it up a little.
She'll talk about profits tomorrow. She sees tremendous potential for profit down there because of 340B.
Okay, and
She'll
the
explain all that.
other thing, and I know you're busy and I must not be too busy, but you're gonna look at maybe making those trailers or those connexes or whatever you call them, look better,
Sea trains, yeah.
sea trains.
Yeah, I haven't forgot.
Okay, that's,
I'm
just,
down to one project guy. I've got lots of
Okay.
projects.
okay, all right.
Prioritizing, but yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah.
Get the whole area cleaned up.
Cool.
And we have a nice airless spray rig now that you notice we just painted 3 sides of the
That
building.
building's looking awesome.
So now that we have that, we can paint that pretty quickly. It'd be nice to do it in a little bit cooler weather.
Yeah. Well, it's getting cooler. By the time we get started, it'll be April.
Not for a week.
Yeah, it's like 110 degrees.
Oh, I know. It's just outrageous for a whole week here. Anyway, all right. So that is all of my items under project update.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, so that brings us to the invoice review approval. Is that you, Bob?
I guess. Well, what we have is we have one more invoice from the architect on the seismic project, which brings him up to current on what the amount of work that's done and in HCI review. So it's just a matter of, we said we would bring each one here. Tim's got it here, that it just needs a couple.
Do we need a motion to approve that, Rod?
Yeah, we do.
I'll make a motion, we approve this presented by Bob.
I'll
Thanks,
second
Gene.
Ross.
Thanks, John. Any discussion? Okay, Catherine, your vote.
Yes,
John,
Yes.
Fred,
Yes.
Gene,
Yes,
and I'm a yes. Hey, Heidi just had texted some information to us. I don't know if everybody got this, but the monthly generator cost us $4,435.
What was it?
4,400.
4,400. Oh, it is higher. Okay.
Okay, and so, yeah, that's why I say never take my off the cuff numbers, because I have a memory like a sieve. I can remember lots of other things, but numbers, I was only off by $2,000 and $43
A month.
a month.
That's okay. I figured it was around 5. So,
80%.
Well, yeah, so your memory is better than mine.
okay. Okay, so Greenbow is done. So we move to Mesa Clinical Pharmacy improvements. And Gene, you know, we talked about the pharmacy, the curbside pickup. I thought for sure you'd be standing up out of your chair, overjoyed with the fact that there's
That's why I'm
progress
so
on
tired. I've
this.
been bouncing all over for the last 2 weeks. So what I was gonna talk about is exactly what we've already talked about.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Well, I believe we're gonna get where you wanna be.
okay, cool.
All right.
Where we're right on the bank even of making money.
Oh, I understand. We need more departments that make lots of money.
Talk about that tomorrow.
All right.
Okay, so. I'm
Okay,
done with
then
that.
what's the propane valve replacement? What's that one about?
Okay, Russ, I know that when you walk out of your house and walk by your propane tank, you look at the valve and you figure out, none of those are supposed to be more than 10 years. And so you basically keep track of yours, right?
On what?
You keep track of yours, you know, when it
You
needs
look
replaced.
you look at the date and you understand that it's not more than 14 years old.
Okay, we have some that's out there and I'm not criticizing.
Can I speak to that?
Okay, yes.
Okay, so what happened is it was supposed to already be done. But the week before we were gonna get it done, both my assistant, who's the one handling it, and myself ended up at home on quarantine. Can't say I had COVID, but anyway.
That, I know we're replacing,
Yes.
that wasn't the issue.
Oh,
No, the issue.
but-
I fixed
Tammy
all that.
returned to ER.
No,
Tammy
no,
returned to ER.
That's not even either the issue. The issue is moving forward. We need a system to know what needs to be replaced and when it needs to be replaced.
Understood.
If somebody takes over for you in 10 years, they need to know what's happening.
And I'm
And
80. Anyway,
we don't, that's something you don't.
well, and just so you know, we are scheduled to do it on the 19th. But
So the issue, the address.
8th and 9th.
It's
Eighth and ninth.
a program
Yeah.
to have the system to tell us when we're not here anymore, when it needs to be replaced.
I will tell you this, that we are insured by Factory Mutual. And Factory Mutual comes out annually or every other year. And they inspect all my propane tanks, they inspect all of my pressure vessels, they inspect everything. And I have to re-up the certifications on those. Why they didn't catch the regulator valves, I'm not sure, but the things they do check are like the pop-offs on those 2 tall posts off the tank.
Yep.
Those we've gotten up there on top of the tank and verified the dates, and they are all good for many more years. So, but somehow the regulators got
Okay,
missed.
we just need a system. That's it.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and I rely on Factory Mutual because they do that as part of our insurance package.
who's factory?
Factory Mutual is an insurance company.
I mean, are they the ones that choose a whole hospital?
Yes,
Okay,
all of our buildings.
okay. I'm not sure you can depend on their inspections. If that tank blew up because the valve went out.
Are you saying I can't rely on a insurance salesman?
Exactly what he just said.
That's what I heard.
So we should find out how much we can get them to say what we can rely on because
Yes.
we,
Point taken.
I personally walk around with them each time they come. And they find discrepancies that the previous guy who inspected didn't write something down right and their records are not right. So he corrects the records. But yes, for some reason, they don't do the pressure regulators, which is what this point was. And it's going to be done in a couple
And
weeks.
the regulators were actually pointed out to us by Leon.
I
Yes,
know.
River Propane.
Yeah, or get a real, now, I'm not saying, okay, a real company to inspect them annually and keep track, have the program for us or something like that.
I can also buy a meter that measures in inches of water column. And there's a spot where I can plug it in and verify that we're getting the proper pressure at each propane device.
But they're supposed to be replaced at periodic.
Understood?
Yeah, and
Yeah, my recollection is they said every 14 years,
Yeah.
but it could be 10.
well, one was from 72, you're well aware of
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
That's over 14, no, it's not.
That's a little over.
Little over. But that's the main one on the
I'm
tank.
not criticizing you because I know you don't look by and say, It looks like it's 28 years old or 14. I mean, so, but we need to try. That's all.
I walk by and say it's still working.
It's exactly, that's what I do. That's what Russ probably walks past his and it's,
Yep,
it's fine.
my equipment didn't blow up.
Okay, that was the only,
Good point, Gene.
that was the only thing I had on that.
Thank you, Gene. Yeah, my house is all electric. I don't have any propane, so it's not my problem. Okay.
This affects propane, not natural gas, correct?
No, natural gas, same thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, different pressure, different amount
Don't
of
have
pressure.
as much pressure on that.
But yeah, natural gas is a higher pressure than
Okay,
propane.
natural gas.
Okay, item I, discussion regarding Leho Building. Tim?
Yes, I received a call from Carol Sorrell, who is the vice president for BFMC, the medical group. They have the master lease on that building. We sublease half of that building, as you're aware. And that's where we have our people from the QIP program in there. Some of our doctors, our GI guys, when they were here, were operating out of there and so forth, which we hope to get that going again real shortly. She approached me the other day indicating that they've made a decision that they are not going to renew their annual lease, their lease again with Dr. Leho. And so their contract expires end of October. And so her concern was wanting to know whether or not we would be interested in either picking up the lease or buying the building or whatever. And so and then her issue was, it says, we just want to know because like I said, if you guys do, we want to be able to make sure that we can come back up periodically to do our health and wellness stuff that we have for our patients and so forth. So like 7 or 8 times a year, they come up and they do mammographies and they do other cardiac and wellness checks, things like that. She just said they would need some place to be able to do those things.
When is the lease up?
End of October.
Okay, who's in touch with Dr. Leo?
Well, I will be the one in
Okay.
touch with him. Yeah.
Okay, he very possibly could be wanting to sell. He wanted to sell it before he leased it.
He's agreed to sell it to us.
I know.
And so forth. Then we were waiting for Cal Mortgage to approve that. In the meantime, BFMC came back and decided they wanted to put the contract in, and he gave it.
We could probably get it, buy the building for less than what it costs to lease it for a month.
I would think so.
So
I would think so. So we're gonna have that conversation.
do we,
I need to get permission.
do we make a motion? Do I make a motion for Tim to negotiate with Dr. Leho on terms and conditions of purchasing or releasing?
Yeah, I don't know that we need to get a motion for that. Yeah, other than direct me to do that. I will do that because then I have to bring it back here for approval anyway.
Okay, well,
Because we don't have it on here as an action item, so.
Russ, do I need to make a motion to give him permission to negotiate or not?
It doesn't have to be a motion that we vote on, but he needs to understand what the board wants him to do.
Right.
Okay, well,
I think he needs to have that conversation. How's that?
Yeah, I do too. Let's figure out what's going on and see if it's, what I'd like to know too is it advantageous to us to have the ability to be able to expand into that facility? And so I need to understand that if we do move in that direction, is it going to be financially viable for us?
Russ, can I answer that? One of the only profitable things we got is Greg Davis. If he was bigger and better, not better, if he was bigger, we'd be making more money. That place is right next door that he could use it.
Yeah.
Is that, you could move into there, would that help you?
So, yeah, Tim and I have had a lot of conversations. I've thought a lot about it. Number one, I think it's really imperative that we either lease the building for a short period of time or purchase the building. In the long run, I think that's going to be very important. The part about it actually being a rural health clinic, I have concerns about, and Tim and Dave, I know, had a meeting with Steve Russo's group. Can't think of their name, but there you go, Whipfley, sorry, never remember that. But with more and more of these these grants coming out that are all value-based. It's all basically population health that we're seeing all of this money come from. You know, whether it's that or doing, you know, substance abuse treatment like MAT treatment, medically assisted treatment, you know, outpatient radiology, mammogram, that type of thing. I mean, the list goes on. And I would just hate to lose that building, you know, or, you know, right now we're down 2 providers because we've lost Mallory Splon and we've lost Dr. Lopez. I'm still aggressively looking for a replacement for Dr. Lopez, and we're going to have to start doing the same thing for Mallory. But you know, when our volume is up, then there's just no more room to you know, to expand. So I mean, I could go on and on.
And the issue you have is there's not a lot of other space, virtually none, in the area that's actually designed and set up for medical offices. And that's a problem. So, I mean, it's expensive to go ahead and build that stuff
And
from
it's
scratch.
close in the
Well,
proximity.
the other thing too is there's a certain protection thing you want to be there about having someone come into your backyard and steal business away from you.
Sure.
So there's that aspect that you want to try to protect that. But,
Okay.
you know, to do that, we've got to put some revenue generating service in there and so forth. So.
But if I don't make a motion, how do I know we all agree? Or how do we take a vote on, we agree for him to negotiate a lease or price or
I just
whatever?
get instruction from the board to go talk to Dr. Leho,
Okay.
and that's all I need.
How do we know every board member agrees?
Well,
Does anybody object?
Talk to him.
Raise your hand and
I
say
I
aye.
have no objection.
Make it happen. How's that?
I got the idea. So,
Okay.
okay, we'll make it happen. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other items that we've didn't fully discuss on this agenda that need to be brought up before we adjourn?
I think Gene's empty chair was shaking its head no.
I was thinking that when you said.
I'm sorry that
She's voting twice here.
I'm sorry, there's 2 meetings I've been at the same place. But that one's more quiet than I am here, so.
Why am I thinking of Clint Eastwood? Okay, then we will adjourn. We will meet as a board. What's our meeting date coming up, Heidi?
September 12th,
Thank you. So that's
Finance Committee tomorrow at 1.
all right. So finance tomorrow, board the week after Labor Day.
Yes.
Should we
All right.
the meeting to the 19th, so we'll have his report by then?
Well, we'll have that at the next building and planning.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
All right. Then
Thank you.
we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Is it